The wind screamed across the Ashlands. The girl crouched low, her knees buried in the scorched earth, arms wrapped around the shaggy neck of her beast. The creature's massive body trembled under her grip, its breath hot and uneven, each exhale scattering tiny clouds of dust. Its fur, once a proud bronze, was streaked with soot and blood. Behind them, the mountains burned. Ahead, the horizon shimmered with the heat of an approaching storm. Not rain, never rain. This was firestorm season, and the wall of flame was already devouring the last of the dry plains. Lira pressed her cheek against the beast's neck. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I can't save us this time." The beast gave a low, guttural rumble, almost a purr, as if telling her it understood. They had run for 2 days without rest, chased by hunters in metal suits who had come for her, and for the creature she had sworn to protect. She could already hear them. A low hum in the distance. The whirring of engines cutting through the wind. They were coming. The first time Lira had seen the beast, it had been chained inside a pit on the edge of the mining camp. The slavers called it a shrikehound, a predator from the deep canyons of Trailis, bred for pit fights and hunting runs. But she had seen something else in its eyes, intelligence and a strange, wordless plea. She had stolen into the pit that night, her thin hands working quickly at the crude locks. When the beast could have torn her apart, it had only sniffed her fingers and waited. Together, they'd escaped into the desert, and for the next 6 months they were inseparable, hunter and hunted, sharing scraps of food and nights under the stars. They had fought off sand raiders, crossed poisoned rivers, and learned each other's unspoken language. She had named him Varro. But now, with the firestorm bearing down and the hunters closing in, Lira knew the journey might end here. The sound of engines grew louder. Lira tightened her grip. Her heart thudded against her ribs. Too fast, too loud. Varro shifted his weight, planting his massive paws into the cracked soil, ready to fight if it came to it. She could see them now, 3 figures in black exosuits cresting the ridge. Their visors reflected the firelight. One of them raised a weapon. Lira shut her eyes. "I'm sorry, Varro," she whispered again. "I won't let them take you alive." Her hand found the dagger at her belt, the same blade she'd stolen from the slavers. Her knuckles went white around the hilt. Then, over the whine of the hunters' engines came another sound, a shout. Not the cold bark of a slaver's order, but a raw, human voice. "Get down." The blast came from somewhere behind her. A streak of plasma ripped past, slamming into the lead hunter and throwing him to the ground. Sparks danced across his armor as he twitched and lay still. Varro's ears flicked up, and Lira turned just in time to see a figure charging across the ash flats. He wore no helmet, no suit, just a battered desert coat flapping wildly in the wind. His face was streaked with dust and sweat, eyes sharp and fixed on her. In his hands was an old, heavy plasma rifle that spat light again, dropping the second hunter in a spray of molten sparks. The third turned to fire, but Varro was faster. With a roar, the beast lunged, massive jaws clamping down on the man's armored arm and ripping him to the ground. Silence followed, broken only by Lira's ragged breathing. The stranger slowed as he approached, lowering his rifle. "You hurt?" he asked, voice low but urgent. Lira blinked, still clutching Varro's fur. "Who are you?" "Name's Kale," he said, kneeling beside her. "I saw the smoke. Figured somebody was in trouble." His eyes flicked to Varro. "Guess I was right." She hesitated, then said, "They were coming for him. He's not dangerous unless you give him a reason." Kale's mouth quirked in something that might have been a smile. "Looks like he just had a good reason." The firestorm's roar deepened, closer now. Kale glanced toward it. We need to move. There's an old relay station 2 clicks east. Might still have shielding. Lyra's first instinct was to refuse. Trusting strangers had never ended well for her. But the heat was already searing her lungs, and Varro's flanks heaved with exhaustion. All right, she said finally. Lead the way. They ran. Varro kept pace beside them, his long strides eating up the distance even in his weakened state. The air shimmered hotter with every step, and the ground began to tremble under the force of the approaching wall of flame. The relay station appeared like a mirage, a squat dome half buried in sand, its once white surface charred black. Kale slammed his shoulder into the rusted hatch until it gave way, and they stumbled inside just as the first waves of heat rolled over the structure. The world outside turned into a roaring inferno. Through a cracked viewport, Lira watched the sky glow orange and red. Varro curled close to her, his body still trembling. Kale tossed her a canteen. Here. You both look like you could use it. She drank deeply, then held it out for Varro, who lapped at the water gratefully. You've been running a long time, Kale said. Lira nodded slowly. 6 months. From them? Yes. They take creatures like Varro, train them to kill, or fight until they die. Kale's eyes darkened. I've seen it. The storm raged for hours. In the flickering half-light of the relay station, Lira found herself telling Kale more than she had told anyone. How she'd grown up in the mining camps, how her parents had died in a collapse, how Varro had been the first living soul to treat her like more than a burden. Kale listened without interrupting, leaning against the wall with his rifle across his knees. When she finally trailed off, he said, You did right, getting him out. She looked at Varro, his massive head resting in her lap. I don't know how much longer I can keep him safe. Kale's gaze was steady. You don't have to do it alone. When the storm finally passed, they emerged into a landscape transformed, blackened earth, twisted tree stumps, and the faint scent of ozone. The hunters were gone, their tracks burned away. Kale stood beside her, scanning the horizon. There's a safe zone to the north. Not many know about it. No slavers, no hunters. You and Varro could make a life there. Lira studied him. And you. I'll get you there, he said simply. After that, it's your choice. She didn't answer immediately. The old reflex, the one that told her to keep running alone, flickered in her mind. But then Varro leaned into her side, and she remembered the moment in the Ashlands when warm hands had pulled her back from the edge. All right, she said. We go together. They set out at dawn. The air was cool, the sky washed clean by the firestorm. Varro moved with more strength now, his long tail swaying gently as they walked. Kale kept a steady pace beside them, his rifle slung across his back. As the horizon stretched ahead, Lira realized that for the first time in months, the pounding in her chest wasn't fear. It was hope. She glanced at Kale and asked quietly, Why did you help us? He shrugged. Nobody deserves to face the end alone. And as Varro rumbled softly between them, Lira tightened her grip on his fur, not out of desperation this time, but out of the quiet certainty that, whatever came next, she wasn't waiting for the end anymore.